Alrighty.
So,
Welcome to MODEX Day 3, I imagine, for most people. Yeah? Quick survey. Whose legs and backs and hips are not hurting? Anyone? No? All right.
I was gonna say I definitely ditched the formal shoes today.
Yeah, makes me feel better for sure.
the
So
padded
I'm Jim Raposa. I'm VP of Business Process Optimization at Barrett Distribution Centers. Barrett is a third-party logistics company, privately owned, third generation. We have 20 facilities across the country, about 7 million square feet of warehouse space. Concentrations in the Mid-South, the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, Texas, and California. Primary core competencies, apparel, footwear, cosmetics, health and beauty, and certainly in other verticals.
I'm Sean Mitchell. I'm the Vice President of Customer Operations at Gather AI. As a physical AI company, we'll get into the solutions that we provide, but have had the pleasure of working with Jim for, I think, coming up on 6 years now.
6 years, yeah.
So definitely excited and happy to speak with you and hoping that you're having a good show. We jump in.
Yeah. So, we're here to talk about the Gather AI solution and how we've applied it to Barrett. But, before doing so, I want to talk about the challenges, that led to this partnership. Most of what you see up here, I would assume these 4 bullet points, which we'll get into individually. I assume you're not all that unfamiliar with what's on the screen. Manual processes, safety risks, e-commerce demands, and of course some of the complexities in our buildings. So speaking about manual inventory processes, to sort of set the stage first, I want to talk about license plate accuracy. It's something we take very, very seriously at Barrett Distribution, and it is our primary internal metric. We certainly report on net and gross accuracies to our customers, but internally we measure our performance. Is that better?
Much better.
Thank you. Internally, we measure our performance on license plate accuracy. And just to kind of set that context, very simply, we have 2 license plates in a location. Systemically, each license plate is supposed to contain 50 quantity each. If license plate 1 contains 51 and license plate 2 contains 49, 0% license plate accuracy. Even though the inventory is there and accounted for, it's a net accuracy of 100%, but from an LP perspective, 0. And that's the standard we hold ourselves to. In order to do that, in the past, we've had a small army of people, cycle count associates that on equipment, reach trucks, stock pickers, RF scanners, scanning license plates, moving up and down the aisles, 7 days a week, 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, and lots of those associates in every building. Long, tedious, non-value add labor, resulting in very expensive cycle count program. Effective, sure, not where we needed it to be, but very, very expensive to do so. And going back to LP accuracy for a moment, our goal is to hit at least 98.5% license plate accuracy, which converts, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, because DPPM comes into play for how we measure improvement. So if you keep that number in mind, 98.5, and which equates to a 15,000 DPPM, it becomes important to how we measure the improvements that we've experienced with Gather AI. Not necessarily intimately tied to what we're talking about here in terms of what Gather AI solution offers, but a downstream positive impact of this is around safety. We also take safety very seriously at Barrett, and the simple fact that we have people on equipment, PIV, reach trucks, stock pickers, in aisles, operating at height, comes with inherent safety risks and inherent increased opportunity for accident. Right? Lots of people in the warehouse, associates on the floor, people on equipment. Mitigating that safety risk is also part of the calculus for what we're talking about today. E-commerce. We're in the age of e-commerce, as we know. we're also in the age of social media. And in today's world, with needing to fulfill on time and accurately in many times same day, but certainly next day is no longer a nice to have, it's an absolute requirement. And trying to keep our inventory at a level where we can fulfill on time and accurately was a challenge. Again, trying to do that in real time with people that are scanning license plates and counting, very, very difficult to do. We're a 3PL, so we have multiple clients in each building. So each client, of course, comes with different SLAs, different order profiles, SKU complexities. So managing that, again, in a manual process, very, very difficult. With that comes the operational complexity I hinted at a bit, right? Where we have those multiple distribution centers, we have multiple SKU configurations in the same building, we have different storage approaches in those buildings depending on the order profiles and the customer expectations. Managing tens of millions of SKUs across our buildings is very unique from building to building at times, and needed a solution that we could standardize across each building, right? That we could apply to each building and help with this operational complexity. One specific example of that, in one of our New Jersey buildings, we have a customer that sells vintage sports memorabilia for their customers. So I have a pair of 1995, I don't actually, illustration, I have a pair of 1995 vintage Michael Jordan Air Jordans, right, that are worth $20,000. I send into this company, it arrives at our warehouse, goes through a certification process, gets put away. Sean has the same year, the same pair of Air Jordans, he sends into this company. His happened to be valued at $30,000. Mine had a slight blemish on them. He sends that in. They're sitting in our warehouse. Consumer comes along, is looking for that vintage pair of Air Jordans, purchases Sean because he or she wants to spend the $40,000, doesn't want that slight blemish. Order arrives in our warehouse. We have to pick Sean's pair of Air Jordans. There could also be 10 other pairs of those same exact shoes in our building. We don't necessarily know that, but there could be. And the experience that that consumer has to have is to get that pair of Air Jordans that does not have that slight blemish for that customer satisfaction. Super, super important. And I didn't mention it on the last slide, but it's certainly relevant here, that in that age of social media, if that customer receives the incorrect pair of shoes, post that online, Instagram, TikTok, wherever it is, other people start responding to that. It's a super bad experience for our customer, for that customer's customer, and it's really not good for anyone, obviously. So what was the solution? And we'll get into that now.
So I can speak a little bit to the solution, and just to confirm, can folks hear me in the back? Just a slight, I'll get it in the middle. Wonderful. So the solution really is to go through and digitize the entire warehouse. It's to make sure that every single piece of inventory, no matter where it is easily traceable. I think the traditional means is to go through, have individuals running around in automated lifts with scan guns, scanning everything in, applying it effectively onto an overly complicated spreadsheet, and ensuring that you have the correct product in the correct location based upon a human being with a scan gun. There's very little verification, there's very little confirmation, and really there's a large difficulty in keeping up with the pace of business. As Jim mentioned, you've got hundreds of thousands of different SKUs, you've got 20 different warehouses, you have different customers, all of which have different SLAs, different needs, different pace of business. The big issue here is how do we keep up with the pace of business without hiring an army of inventory control team, without increasing all of the operational throughput required? How do we keep up with the pace of business? And the biggest thing here is to go through and, like I said, digitize that process. Leverage AI, leverage computer vision, ensure that what you're doing right now is taking highly flexible camera systems, putting them where they need to be in a cost-effective way, using computer vision to go through, count cases, have an overlay, ensure that you have the correct product in the correct location, making sure that I get to sell my $45,000 pair of Air Jordans instead of having Jim get to sell his scuffed up older $25,000 pair. The big issue here is just making sure that anytime you make a commitment to a customer, you know that the correct product is going out on time every time. And the way you do that is by leveraging AI, leveraging flexibility, and leveraging a camera system that allows you to get there. We can jump to the next slide. So as I mentioned, I'm from Gather AI. We are a physical AI company founded back in 2018 by 3 Carnegie Mellon PhDs who brought forth the world's first fully autonomous full-scale helicopter. Beauty of the system here is it went through, was able to easily map an entire field, fly the helicopter full scale like I mentioned, and then they sold this technology directly to the Department of Defense. From there they said, how do we go through and find a commercially viable application for this ability to easily have a flexible data gathering system and apply it to a real world problem? And what they realized is there's a $1.7 trillion information gap when it comes to the warehousing within the United States. Inventory is supposedly on the shelf in the warehouse management system, in the ERP. However, it's not physically there. It's in the wrong spot. And the realization is we can have highly flexible AI-enabled camera systems that can go through, scan every single location, 10 to 20x the speed of a human operator, but with perfect recall, with perfect understanding of exactly what's there, and allowing us to leverage and to chip away at what is a huge pain point for the logistics industry. We jump to the next one. So effectively what you're seeing is the ability for us to go through and have different data nodes, whether that's a fully autonomous drone that flies through the warehouse scanning location by location, or whether that's a camera system mounted onto a forklift, an order picker, a turret truck, really ensuring that you're able to have that point-to-point traceability for every single piece of inventory. It's not just scanning barcodes, it's reading text, it's counting cases, it's ensuring that the correct product is in the correct location every time to ensure that our customers are able to fulfill 100% of their orders. They don't have skip picks. They're able to make sure that they're keeping up with the pace of business that continues to increase day over day.
Yeah, so the evaluation process of everything that Sean just talked about, when we engaged with Gather AI 6+ years ago, we engaged with several companies, being based in the Northeast, in the greater Boston area for our headquarters, no shortage of opportunities or companies to work with at that time. And we engaged with a number and actually allowed some to come into our buildings and test the technology. We landed on 2 pilots, one with Gather AI, of course, and with another company. And in short order, quite honestly, based on Gather AI's technology, their vision, and just as importantly, in working with Sean and the rest of the team, their customer service and partnership was light years ahead of the other company that we piloted with. So it was just a few months post-pilots that we chose Gather AI as the preferred provider. And with that, that vision, if we summarize to some degree what I spoke about earlier, where we had a very expensive manual process, we had to improve our ability to meet our customer demands for on-time shipping, accurate shipping, and we had to do that in a way that lowered costs. Not an easy thing to do, but with Gather AI solution and their partnership, we actually were able to achieve all of those things.
And if I can jump in, I think we were honored, just back in early 2020, we were an early stage startup. And effectively, we had the ability to learn from one of the premier 3PLs when it comes to bringing in new technology, when it comes to setting the expectation of customers to ensure that they have the nearly 99% LP accuracy for every single location and ensuring that we had that. So one, I want to thank you. And also, we ended up acquiring that other company that you piloted with. So that worked out for us in both ways.
Fair enough. Yeah, so in terms of the solution and some high-level results, and we'll get into some of the other numbers a bit later, that deploying the Gather AI drones in the 10 facilities that we're in today really has improved, if we talk about scans per hour, where we were at with our manual process, and based on the different configurations in our buildings, we've been able, in some cases, to improve 200 to 400% scans per hour based on flight time compared to what we were doing manually. And in one particular facility, happens to be the same one that I mentioned earlier, because that V&A case storage is so dense, we're able to get up to 2,000 scans per hour in that building with the drone. Previous to that, manually was relatively productive because it is so dense, but to be able to do that 4 times, 5 times greater helps us realize that on-time shipping, helps us realize that shipping accuracy, and was a major, major step forward for us and our customer experience.
So if I can talk about kind of beyond the drone system, I think we've provided an autonomous drone platform that works on shift and off shift for our customers for years now. And the new product that came out last year is what we call MHEV Vision, Material Handling Equipment Vision. And effectively what this is going through and taking a warehouse and turning it into a series of cubes. You effectively map every single square meter of the facility and now allow you to go through and track the movement of every piece of inventory from receiving from the truck in through the receiving dock, from there, quality inspection, going into inventory, from inventory to pick, from pick to pack, from pack to ship out. Effectively what we're doing is, instead of just having a camera system that is auditing what's on the racking, we've taken that same AI engine, placed it onto the forklifts themselves, and allowed you to go through and now scan inventory as you're picking it up. You now have pinpoint accuracy of every single piece of inventory as it's moved through the process, but you also have full traceability of every single piece of equipment throughout the warehouse, meaning you can see where the trucks are at any point in time. You have all the telematics. You also have the ability to make sure that you know what the operator efficiency is for every single location, but you also ensure now when you put something away, it's immediately transacted automatically into the warehouse management system. It's not an issue of going through and hoping that the individual scanned in, scanned out every time they put away. They just pick it up, walk away, put it in the location, move on from there. And so it really creates that new level of high flexibility. And I think we've been honored that Barrett has been able to pilot this and go through and kind of put it through its paces in the same way that we did 6 years ago with a drone-based system that we have. But that is kind of the vision. If we jump to the next slide here, you can kind of see effectively what you're doing is you're going through and allowing for this flexible camera system to have the ability to scan at the pace of business. You're no longer auditing or cycle counting after the fact. You're going through and effectively having that traceable record through every single movement of the warehouse, giving you an improvement not just in the labor of cycle counting, but really in the on time and full, ensuring that product is always where it needs to be, giving our customers the ability to make sure they can meet the commitments that they've made to their end business.
Yeah, and from a Barrett perspective, this is the vision. It was Gather AI's vision on their vision technology that really is where this gets super, super exciting. And if you just follow the flow and you think about digitizing that entire process flow and also executing those transactions within our WMS and eliminating the need for an operator, picker, a reach truck driver to have to scan a license plate, scan a location, and we actually have digital records of that entire process flow is really quite exciting. And as Sean mentioned, we are currently piloting in one of our facilities, and it's going quite well, and everything is looking super, super promising.
And maybe before we jump into the results, the other thing you can do with this data is now to use agentic AI to determine what is the best practice for the facility. How do you take this information now that you know the movement of every vehicle, you know where everything is being placed, you know what the skip pick rate is, and go through and leverage now an intelligent co-pilot to tell you exactly how to ensure that you're putting the right resources in the right place at the right time. So that's kind of the vision, is ensuring that you now have the information and synthesizing it in such a way so that people can make better decisions to keep up with the pace of business.
So some of the more specific results pertaining to the drone deployments. I spoke about LP accuracy in the past, beginning of the presentation. You're seeing a 70% improvement in LP accuracy, and that's real. And go back to the way we measure improvement being DPPM, right? So if we're at 98.5 DPPM, 98.5 percentage. We have a 15,000 DPPM. If we click that up to 99% accuracy, that's 10,000 DPPM. It's literally a 33% improvement to get from 98.5 to 99%. So across our buildings, every single one that we have deployed a drone in, from go, we've realized no less than a 13% improvement month over month until we've reached our best performing facilities. And a few of those facilities are actually virtually at 100% inventory accuracy, including the sports memorabilia company. So really super impressive. I think you all understand that how that improves our ability to fill an order and fill it on time. Product is where it belongs, when we need it, can be picked, packed, and shipped on time. Back to the MHE, 10 facilities currently with drones, scanning license plates at 200 to 400 times faster than we're able to do with people. Also, more accurately, I mean, people still do make mistakes, of course, and it would take more counters to count that many LPs, and those counters are on MHE. So we've been able to reduce our MHE fleet. I talked about the safety in the past slides. We've been able to reduce that fleet also in some buildings, 1, 2, or 3 reach trucks or stock pickers either went back to operations, and then they could reduce their fleet by terminating some rentals and saved significant money by doing so. We've reduced shrink for our customers. The fact that we can search and find variances so much quicker and locate missing product. We've had multiple customers, because our LP accuracy is so strong and because the shrink is so low, that they've foregone requiring us to do physical inventories for them, which is a massive cost savings for our customers. Labor, of course, but also not having to shut down shipping for 2 days, 3 days, et cetera. So significant results there. And I've talked about the labor that it took us to run our cycle count program before partnering with Gather AI. This is a very real number also. We were able to reduce that labor spend in cycle counting by 40% across the entire department, and we have sustained that for the last 3 years ongoing. So super, super important. Go back to LP accuracy one last time, I promise. Tim and Arthur Barrett, the two co-owners of the business, speak about LP accuracy also as it pertains to employee satisfaction and employee engagement. People want to do their job, and they want to do it well. If the product is not where it belongs, they can't, right? And they really firmly believe that LP accuracy is a leading indicator of employee satisfaction, therefore employee engagement and retention. So the fact we've been able to do this has been a significant improvement across our employee base also.
And I think that was an unexpected outcome that we had. I think we come in and we expect, hey, everyone, we're going to improve the operational efficiency, we're going to help everyone out. We didn't expect to make the employee base happier and improve retention at the sites that we came in at.
Yeah, certainly. It's not something you necessarily directly tie to something like, is the license plate correct? But again, if people can't do their job, they're stuck. They want to pick their orders, right? They want to pick them as fast as they can. They want to replenish. And if they can't do that, it drives their productivity down. So, understanding that if I can do my job well, I'm going to be happier about it is relatively straightforward, but you wouldn't necessarily tie it to this, but it is real. So in terms of, that's where we are today. As I said, we're in 10 facilities currently. We plan to continue to expand in more facilities with the drone technology, and additionally with the MHE vision as we continue to work through the pilot. Sean mentioned it earlier. We're learning a lot about what the technology can do, and we're providing feedback also to Gather AI to help with that. From an operational perspective, what are the things that we would like to see? And then we're learning a ton about our operations. What the drone and the vision tech does is really enforce operational discipline. The technology needs to see the license plate, and if operators are not putting it in the right place, if operators are putting a pallet into the racks with the license plate not visible, we can't scan the product. Gather AI can't scan the product. So it enforces really great aisle hygiene and operational discipline. So that's that constant feedback that we have with Gather AI. Still have weekly calls with the facilities that are operating drones and the MHE. So really high-touch partnership. We've been able to improve our processes. Hopefully, we've been able to help Gather, grow as they have. And looking towards the future, for sure, to have that highly digitized warehouse that's best in class. So it's been a wonderful partnership.
And I think we've been honored to receive the feedback, but also to learn immensely from Barrett. I think a lot of what we've put into the product has come from the operational excellence that they show facility to facility, and just to make sure that we're keeping up with that ethos throughout our product suite. So definitely we're excited, and Jim, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us
of course.
Here and to make
pleasure.
sure that, me personally, I've appreciated the partnership for the last 6 years.
Same here. My pleasure.